Welcome back from the ad break, and let's continue with our lesson. So we are going to now be looking at those application questions. Remember, you are going to need to figure out which method of factorizing out of all the methods that you've learned, which one should be applied in this case. So let's look at those expressions. So we are going to simplify the following expressions. Number one, there we have x plus 2. This is divided by x squared plus 5x plus 6. So when we look at the numerator, we are not going to do anything there because that is the simplest form. But when we look at the denominator, we have a trinomial there, a quadratic trinomial, and we have learned methods on how we can factorize that. So the numerator remains x plus 2, but when we look at the bottom there, we can open two brackets. We know that each of the brackets is going to have x, and then we are going to think of the factors of 6 that when added are actually going to give us the middle term, which is a positive 5. So can you think of any factors of a positive 6 that when we add them are going to give us a positive 5? If you are thinking of a positive 3 with a positive 2, then you are absolutely correct. But notice there, the numerator and the denominator, there is something that is the same. There is a binomial and a binomial that is the same. Remember, the same thing divided by the same thing will give us 1. Those are the properties of 1. So we can see there that x plus 2 divided by x plus 2 will give us 1. And as a denominator there, we are left with x plus 3. And that is our final answer. Let's move on to number 2. So when we're looking at number 2 again, we have a trinomial at the top. We have a binomial that is being squared at the bottom. Do you remember how to square your binomials? So when I'm looking at the top, I can immediately see that that value of a is a common factor. So I am going to take it out as a common factor, and we are going to have there left b squared plus 10b plus 25. And at the bottom there, we are going to have our b plus 5 with our b plus 5. Right. So our next move there, we are going to look at that trinomial and we are going to factorize it. So we have 2 outside there, and we know that when we factorize it, we are going to have 2 brackets, and each of those brackets are going to have a b and a b, as that is our variable at this moment. And then we are going to think of the factors of 25 that when added give us a positive 10. So those factors, you must have thought of them now. Yes, if you are thinking of a positive 5 and a positive 5, then you are absolutely correct. As the denominator there, we have a b plus 5 in one bracket, and we have a b plus 5 in the other bracket. But before we can even continue, we don't even need to multiply those 2 binomials as the denominator, because we notice that there are binomials that are the same at the numerator and at the denominator. So b plus 5 divided by b plus 5 will give us 1. Again, b plus 5 divided by b plus 5 will give us 1. That leaves us with 2 divided by 1, which in actual fact is just equals to 2, because we know that any number divided by 1 remains that number. Let's look at more of those questions. We're still simplifying the following expressions. We're looking for the different methods that we have learned to simplify these fractions. We have the g squared plus 6g plus 8. This is all divided by g squared plus 4g. So when we look at the numerator there, we can see that that is a trinomial. Immediately, we know that we must have 2 brackets. We are going to have g in both of the brackets. Then we are thinking of the factors of 8 that when added give us 6. So that is going to be a positive 4 with a positive 2. And we are dividing this with that denominator there. But when we look at the denominator there, it is possible for us to take out a common factor. What is the common factor here? It is our g. And then when we take out that common factor of g, we are left with g plus 4. So when we look at the numerator and the denominator, there are things that are the same. We have a binomial at the top that is g plus 4 and a binomial at the bottom that is g plus 4. So g plus 4 divided by g plus 4, that now leaves us with our g plus 2, and this is all divided by g. Now if we want to actually continue with this, remember that denominator belongs to each of them. So that would be our g divided by g plus our 2 divided by g. And we know that if there's something that is divided by itself, then we know that that will give us a 1. So any number of variable or polynomial divided by itself will give us a 1. And we are adding that to, that is 2 divided by g. So that will remain that way, and that is our final answer. Let's look at the next one. So the next one there we have 3y minus 3, and this is all divided by y squared minus 2y plus 1. We have a common factor at the numerator, and we have a trinomial, a quadratic trinomial with the denominator. Let's see how that goes. So we are going to take out a common factor, and that common factor is a common factor of 3. So we've taken out a common factor of 3, then we are left with y minus 1. And when we look at the bottom there, we have a trinomial. So how are we going to factorize that trinomial? Remember, from a quadratic trinomial, we need to have 2 brackets. So how are we going to, or what are we going to have in these 2 brackets? We have there y in each of the brackets, and then factors of a positive 1 that when added are going to give us a negative 2. Can you think of those factors? Yes, you are correct if you are thinking of a minus 1 and a minus 1. They are the factors. But look, we have a binomial divided by a binomial that is the same. So that gives us 1. So what are we left with? We are left with 3 divided by y minus 1. And that is the final answer. Let's look at number 5. So there with number 5, we have a trinomial, a quadratic trinomial at the top. We have a quadratic trinomial at the bottom. So we are going to factorize those 2 trinomials. So since as well both of them are quadratic trinomials, that means we are going to have 2 brackets at the top, 2 brackets at the bottom. Let's deal with the numerator first. We have a p in either of the brackets. And then we are thinking of the factors of a positive 4 that when added give us a positive 5. That is simply a positive 1 with a positive 4. And when we look at the denominator, also 2 brackets must come from there, where we have p in either of the brackets, in each of the brackets, sorry, and then we are going to think of the factors of 16 that when added give us a positive 8. Can you think of those factors? Yes, you are correct if you are thinking of a positive 4 with a positive 4. Now we can see that we have brackets that are the same in the numerator and in the denominator. So that means we can say p plus 4 divided by p plus 4. What am I left with? We are left with the p plus 1 divided by the p plus 4. And that is the final answer. Let's look at number 6 there. So we have there 2k squared minus 18, and immediately we can see that there is a common factor. Then we are dividing this by 3 open bracket k plus 4 close bracket plus k open bracket k plus 4 close the bracket. So let's look at the common factor there with the numerators. What is that common factor? Yes, the common factor is the 2. What am I left with? I'm left with k squared minus 9, and we close that bracket. Then looking at the denominator, do you think there's a common factor there as well? Yes, if you look there is a common bracket actually as the common factor. So we are going to take out that common bracket, which is a k plus 4, and we are left with a 3 plus k. Now, look closely at that numerator in the brackets. Can we do something further there? Yes, we can, because as we're looking at it, it is a square number with a square number, and there is a difference between them. Do you remember which method of factorizing that we used when we had two square numbers with a difference between them? Yes, we used difference of two squares. So if you remember, the difference of two squares also gives us two brackets where we are going to have the square roots of each of those square numbers in each of the brackets. Now we are going to have a k and a k in each bracket because k multiplied by k gives us a k squared. And then we are going to have a 3 with a 3 because 3 multiplied by 3 gives us the 9. Remember, the brackets are similar, but one bracket is going to be an addition and the other bracket is going to be a subtraction. The denominator will stay as it is. And you know that from this point forward, you are looking for something that is the same at the numerator and at the denominator. Do you see something that is similar that can perhaps divide by itself? That one might be a bit tricky because we see a k plus 3 and a 3 plus k. Are they the same bracket? If you remember properly, addition is commutative. So it means that we can swap those two around. If it is easier for you, you can just rewrite it where you have swapped the two around, and that means we are going to have 2 and in brackets k plus 3 and in brackets again k minus 3, and as the denominator we are going to have a k plus 4. And because addition is commutative, we can swap those two terms around, so that is going to be a k plus 3 as well. Perhaps in that way it becomes easier for you to see those brackets that are the same. But the k plus 3 will divide with the k plus 3, then we are left with a 2, k minus 3 as the numerator, and as the denominator, we are left with the k plus 4. That was a wonderful lesson of factorizing. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you know those tricks of when to factorize using which method. Let's quickly go to the ad break, and then we'll come back to wrap up our lesson.